30 years prior to that, I climbed that. I was at the University of Lethbridge, and I was in a different place at that time. I didn't appreciate this place. I all but ran up there. I was in much better shape, much better looking, and so forth. I climbed this. The climbing was so much easier, and I just wanted to get back down. I wanted to get back down to Sweetgrass, Montana, so that I could have Corsmere. Corsmere was just going north. That's where my mind was at that time. So this was very special for me. That's an offering we left. We left there with the group that I was there with. I did what I was supposed to do at this place. So it's been a journey. And yes, it is very personal. A guy.
Yeah, so as Narcissus is saying, this is the Blackfoot world. The last slide on this part. Kitsik stuck up, and we depend on you. All of that was said before with Narcissus. This is what that's saying. That's what we depend on. As Stoics said, we were able to raise our children with that. Gamo Dan, that helps us escape danger. Samibat, that we live long lives through. This was the world that Maslow and his colleagues were coming into, and our question was, were they prepared? One, and having spent, coming here and spend 6 weeks, did they have a clue, an inkling of what they encountered? Maybe, maybe not. Jane Richardson Hanks later told us, at that time, Maslow was, he had his own agenda, but he was not unperceptive. And so that we can assume that he took in a lot more than maybe he's given credit. In any case, going back to his being sent to Siksika, Maslow didn't really want to go at first. He told Ruth Benedict, he said, I have no idea, I don't have the first inkling of how to work in another cultural context. And so Ruth Benedict says, I have this graduate, this new PhD, Jane Richardson. She just finished doing her PhD dissertation on Kiowa law. She worked in a Kiowa community, and I'll send her with you. And Jane actually didn't care that much for Maslow. She knew him because he tried to do his social personality inventory with her. When he got to the second half of those questions, she told him, well, that's not enough for me. She didn't have a high opinion of him to begin with. But she said, okay, well, Ruth Benedict wants me to go, I'm going to Siksika. But neither one of them had a car. And Maslow had this buddy from Wisconsin, Lucien Hanks, who was also a psychology student when Maslow was going through grad school. And Lucien had a car. And so they phoned Lucien and said, hey, do you want to get involved in this study? We're going to Siksika for 6 weeks up in Alberta. And he agreed. And so they met in Wisconsin, and they got in Lucien's car and they drove up to Siksika. And they went straight to the Indian agent, Pocklington, and they had a letter from Ruth Benedict. This was their introduction. They had a letter of introduction. They went to Pocklington and they said, Ruth Benedict from Columbia College has sent us here to do research, right? And surprisingly enough, Pocklington said, well, that's fine as far as I care, but I can't give you the ultimate permission to do your project here. you're going to have to talk to the elders. And this was really surprising, 1938. But this is what he said. And he told them, I can assign you an interpreter that can bring you to meet the elders. You present your what you want to do to them, and they'll make a decision on whether or not you can stay here. And so it just turned out that this was in June, and it just turned out that Gokats and the Sundance was just getting set up. And so Pocklington assigned Earl Cathchild to be the interpreter, and Earl brought them down to the Sundance grounds, and he brought them to the lodge of White-Headed Chief. And White-Headed Chief, when they went in, already had a number of the community's leaders right there. They were sitting on other issues, and Cathchild walked in with these three researchers, and he announced, well, these people are here from back east, and they want to do a study in our community, and I'll let them speak for themselves what they want to do, and I'll translate. And from what Jane tells me, Lucian and Abraham Maslow were so intimidated walking into this with these old men here that they were completely tongue-tied. They couldn't say a thing, and they just stood there awkward. And there was a long moment of silence waiting for these guys to say something. And so finally, Jane spoke up, and she told them, well, you know, we're here to visit you all at the Great Siksika Nation. This is what I remember is close to word for word is from what she told me. And we're very interested in writing down the stories you have to tell about what life was like here when the buffalo were here. And you'll always know where we are, who we're talking to, and what we're asking. And she said then Lucian and Maslow got their wits about them and made nice speeches and all of this. But she said these elders, they couldn't quite figure out what kind of men these were that the woman had to do their talking. So White-Headed Chief agreed. He said, well, I'll host you. You can set up, they had brought a canvas tent. He said, you can set up your tent here by my lodge for the duration of the Sundance. When it's over, you can set it up by my house if you'd like to stay. They ended up, well, they did for a bit, but then Jane and Lucian moved out. That's a story we're not there yet. But in any case, White-Headed Chief agreed to host them while they were there. And they had, after that awkward entry, even though they were, it was an agreement that they could do their study, they still didn't really feel confident that they had anybody's trust at all. And so Jane had done her literature review before they'd driven out to Siksika. As part of their literature review, she remembered that the woman that sits that okan, the oka, she needs tongues. She needs tongues to dry and cook and dry again and feed everybody. People that make vows with these tongues. She needs 100 tongues. And so it's a good thing to give her a gift of tongue. And so they went to White-Headed Chief and they said, if we can get some tongues, could we give it to that woman? And this was Mrs. Medigan's. So these are all photos. The photos you're seeing are all taken by some of our researchers. She said, if we can get tongues, can we give them to that woman? And White-Headed Chief, well, yeah. And she said he was quite surprised that they would even bring this up.